Patriots fans are dealing with a lot. And Chris, you talked the other day about how Bill Belichick, coach of the Patriots, not thrilled with the fact that Mac Jones, during his second year on the team, going outside the family to get some help on how to actually run an NFL offense because the Frankenstein monster of Matt Patricia and Joe Judge were not getting it done. And I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Joe Judge does not get mentioned enough as part of the problem. Joe Judge, a huge part of the problem. Making him quarterbacks coach was a huge part of the problem. Making Matt Patricia offensive coordinator was a big part of the problem. Making Joe Judge the position coach was a huge part of the problem. And for Mac Jones, this is all in the immediate aftermath of Josh McDaniels, one of the best offensive minds in football, leaving. Right. So It was a huge contrast for him. And his career is
hanging in the balance, right,
to being coached in a proper way, because if he goes out and sucks, they're not going to say, well, he's getting bad coaching. They're going to say he's bad. So I say all that because we've been talking about it. I wrote something about it yesterday, and because so many people in the business read what we write, I'll hear from people immediately after writing certain things. People I know, people I trust, people who are plugged in, and I started to hear, hey, you don't know the half of it. Belichick tried to trade Mac Jones this offseason, and that took the whole thing to a new level. And it's not surprising. It's the next logical step in this dysfunction that exists between Belichick and Mac Jones.
Well, there definitely is something there. I mean, we know that. It does seem like there's friction, right? Whether it's the story I told yesterday or, other things that have gone on there. Also, too, with Mac Jones, I mean, yeah, the people that were most in his corner, or the people that, were vouching for him when he was coming out into the draft. We know Bill Belichick liked him, but that offensive staff and the people you explained, Josh McDaniels and company, Mickey Lombardi, who's now the offensive coordinator with the Las Vegas Raiders, they were all in New England. So they were the Mac Jones people, in a lot of ways. And again, we've talked about this. Mac Jones is going to be, catch the eye of some of the brilliant coordinators in football, because his ability to handle all that they can give out, and he can digest it all and process it all on the field and make it work on the field at a high level. That's the greatness of Mac Jones. So with what they did, they chopped a leg out from underneath Mac Jones, and one of his best things. And, hey, give me more offense, give me more plays, give me more checks, give me more thoughts, and I can do it. Well, he doesn't get that with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia because, of course, they're not on Josh McDaniels' level, let alone, he doesn't have maybe the guys that were in his corner in that organization right now fighting for him. So I don't know where it is. I haven't heard what you have heard. I am one, even though it's a weird relationship, I still go, that sounds not like Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots to make that type of move or do that. But people, I know that. So obviously, where there's smoke, there's fire, and we know there's a little smoke with this relationship anyways.
And we know that, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way, I just can't think of a better way to say it. Head games can get played from time to time by Bill Belichick, right? And it may just be that this is a way to get Mac Jones to settle down a little bit and accept the fact that he's going to have to compete with Bailey Zappi, because that was the news from last week. That's what we focused on the other day when you pivoted to the idea that Belichick isn't thrilled with the fact that Mac Jones was calling people in Alabama for help last year when their offense was as rudimentary as it could possibly be, and it was this horribly failed experiment driven by hubris. And I said at the time, if any other coach was doing this, we'd be saying, what in the hell is he thinking? And in hindsight, what in the hell was he thinking? So there's friction, there's animosity, and Mac just doesn't take his crap. I think that's part of the problem too. Mac has become vocal. Mac has become a little assertive, or a lot assertive. He's not the Stepford Patriot that we've come to be accustomed to in the past 20 years, where you just act like a robot at all times. He says what he thinks, and he's become more and more aggressive, I believe, about making his views known, and we saw it last year. So is this an effort to get him in line? Is this an effort to tell him, be careful what you wish for? You could end up with a different team. Does he want to be with a different team? I think he resents the fact that he's got to compete with Bailey Zappi. And we've heard twice now Bill Belichick not say Mac is the guy. And so there's some stuff there.
There's some
stuff there.
Yeah.
And Chris, look, I look at the Raiders. I was looking at the Raiders before we got to free agency. And even though they have added Jimmy Garoppolo, you look at his contract, the Garoppolo contract does not scream this guy's the unquestioned number one. Mac is still under the final 2 years of a slotted rookie deal for the 15th overall pick in the draft. If the Raiders, who are scoping out quarterbacks in round one, don't draft one, that becomes plan B. Trade for Mac Jones. That's a possibility that could happen after round one of the draft, depending upon who the Raiders do or don't get. So I'm keeping a close eye on the Raiders as the draft approaches, and I'll be watching even more carefully if they don't draft a quarterback.
Yeah, well, listen, it's fair to make that connection. I hear you there. I do. Again, I'll say just in that, watching that group closely, I don't think that's their type of move at that point of the year after the draft. I would say for next year on the radar, like you're talking about with Jimmy Garoppolo, right? And, Mike, that's where I also, within the conversation and the stuff you put out there yesterday and all that, I do wonder if and again, I'm not trying to discredit your source or anything like that, but there's a difference between shopping and then people called, right, about a player too. Hey, shopping, hey, blah, 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 he's available. What do you think? What do you think? Do I think it's crazy to think that maybe the Raiders and Josh McDaniels maybe called the Patriots early on in the offseason to check, maybe a Kyle Shanahan called early in the offseason? The guys that we know liked Mac Jones. I don't think that's crazy to think that. That's different than shopping the guy, though. That's where it's different. And then the other thing I do,
look, I appreciate what you're trying to say. Yeah. My understanding is, Belichick made the calls.
Okay,
whether he made them directly or someone else did. That this wasn't somebody calling up, kicking the tires on Mac Jones. This is Belichick affirmatively. And the teams that were mentioned were the Buccaneers, the Texans, the Commanders, and the Raiders, not the 49ers. So the 49ers.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying. I'm just throwing out theories. I'm not even.
And I was joking yesterday with Tom Curran about the possibility of just trading Trey Lance for Mac Jones. What the hell? Problem solved. And Kyle finally gets the guy that we all thought he wanted to take when he moved up to number 3 2 years ago.
Yeah, sure. Well, the other part of this, too, though, is, one, does Bill Belichick, I know he didn't, and this is where I think, you're spot on and your pasta and meatballs are good, where, hey, he's not going to give anybody the job or just lay out the red carpet like we talked about. So, yeah, they had games between, is Mac Jones definitely going to be the starter? No, everybody's going to compete. Everybody's going to have a chance to be, a starter or play, whatever. Those are definitely head games of a Bill Belichick, not letting anybody feel comfortable, sure, sending that notice out throughout his football team. But I will say, for him to trade Mac Jones early in the offseason, and I don't know what his plan was going to be. I don't know. That just seems unlike Bill. That's where I'm shocked. That's where it's just between that and the offensive coordinator thing. That's where I would just go, damn, that just doesn't seem his MO right there. Now, maybe they had another plan that they were going to put into place there, but I have a hard time thinking he was going to just dive in with Bailey Zappi and go, okay, we're good with that. I don't feel that that's where the organization wants to go. But it is weird, Mike, and I'm not doubting you. I'm not doubting you at all. It's just there's obviously something there in that relationship that's wrong. And then I think what complicates it, too, is, and you've alluded to this, is the fact that, Mr. Kraft and the Kraft family seems to have taken a liking to Mac Jones and understand what he can be and as a leader of their organization. So that adds a little bit of an issue in this whole thing, too. But interesting, man. We've never seen this kind of stuff with the Patriots or had these kind of talks, I feel like.
I think the bottom line is Bill Belichick has finally encountered a quarterback, and maybe we can even stretch it more broadly and say a player who isn't afraid of him, who will give it back to him, who isn't afraid about talking out of school, who isn't afraid about expressing his displeasure to others, even if it gets back to Bill Belichick. because I think last year, some of his displeasure early in the season when he had the ankle injury, remember he suffered the ankle injury against the Ravens, and he was out for a while, and it was Bailey Zappi. When's he going to go back to Mac? And there was already the underlying frustration about the switch from Josh McDaniels to the Patricia Judge approach. There was frustration, and Mac Jones may have been talking out of school, may have gotten back to Bill. Bill may not have been happy about it, and Mac didn't care. Mac didn't go shrink in the corner at the big bad Bill Belichick. That's what makes this thing so fascinating. You've got ownership that loves this kid. You've got a kid who's not afraid of Bill Belichick, like other players have been.
Yeah, sure.
And so what do you do? What do you do? Do you clip his wings? What do you do? And regardless of whether it's Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi, it's the worst quarterback situation in the division. If and when Aaron Rodgers is traded to the Jets, that's for damn sure. 2-on, you'll be happy to acknowledge that we believe in Tua more than we believe in anybody under contract currently with the New England Patriots at the quarterback position. Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Aaron Rodgers. You put Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. I forgot how much they look alike. You put those two guys at the bottom of the division. When is the last time that the Patriots have had the worst quarterbacks in their division?
Gosh, it's going back to before Drew Bledsoe era, probably. Somewhere in there, right? Early 90s. I mean, that would be the first time you could even think about that being a possibility. It's been forever. You're right. They've been blessed and been in some good situations there at that position. I mean, you're saying it right, Mike. I mean, you are. Now, where I say, like, the other part of me that's just like, why would Bill Belichick want to do this? Or we know to a degree, maybe, because of, the things we're talking about here. But, also, too, just with where I guess, I want to question it, Mike, again, is just go, man, yeah, unlike anything I've ever seen Bill do, unlike, again, here is a big year for the Patriot football team. I mean, a big year, people up in Boston, they're all wanting more from Bill Belichick. You're writing articles about he's on the hot seat, the greatest coach of all time, and he's going to make up a quarterback, and have a new quarterback situation. That's another part where, I don't know. I'm like, wow, I just doesn't seem like him. And then you got a guy like Billy O'Brien who came from Alabama and has been in New England, and you would think that a Mac Jones makes sense or fits with him and will mesh there together as well. So that's where it's just like, what is going on up there? And that's where I guess I'm a little confused and maybe question some of it and what's going on and everything.
We would have to go all the way back to 1992. Hugh Millen started 7 games. Scott Zolak started 4. Tommy Hodson, whoever that is, started 3. And Jeff Carlson, whoever that is, started 2. That was 1992. That helped the Patriots bottom out to get the first overall pick in 1993. Bill Parcells arrives, and he takes Drew Bledsoe. That was another year where there were 2 top quarterback prospects. One worked out, one did not. Do you remember? And I'm going to ask you a 3-phase question.
All right,
here.
Hold on here.
Who was number 2? Hang on.
Yep.
Who was number 2?
Yep.
Where did he go to college? And who drafted him?
Wow. And that was the 93 draft?
19 and 93.
Whoa, man. I cannot think of who was the other.
I'll give you a hint.
Was he Notre Dame?
You got it?
Was it Notre Dame?
You got one of the 3.
Was it
ding, ding, ding. That's
Rick
one.
Meyer?
There you go.
Seattle Seahawks.
There you go.
Boom.
He completed the trifecta.
Thank you.
Now, you would have been dead if it was Jeopardy. You would have run out of time. It would have gone, but you got it. I gave you a little extra time, and you got it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So just a reminder, as we sit 22 days away from the draft, and we're having this C.J. Stroud-Bryce Young comparison, it was 30 years ago exactly that it was Drew Bledsoe and Rick Meyer, and Meyer never worked out in Seattle, and Bledsoe ended up being not spectacular, but took a team to the Super Bowl. I mean, the Tom Brady ascension, I think, causes us to view Drew Bledsoe less than we should.
Sure.
Drew Bledsoe was better than he gets credit for because he got eclipsed by Tom Brady, and we just think of him as a guy who got shoved at the side. He was still pretty good.
He was very good. He led a team to a Super Bowl. I mean, it was what, 21-all or 28-21 with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter against the Green Bay Packers. And they were in the mix of things every year with Drew Bledsoe at quarterback. Let's not forget. I mean, they got to the first Super Bowl where Brady won and all of that. Why? I mean, hey, Drew Bledsoe came in the AFC Championship game and threw a big touchdown pass and played really good when Brady hurt his ankle, right? In like the first quarter, early second quarter there. So he held down the fort, But yeah, you're right.
I was at that game.
Yeah,
I was at that game.
You were at that.
And there was only 1 week between Conference Championship and Super Bowl, and that Monday, Tuesday, is it going to be Bledsoe or is it going to be Brady? Because there was an injury to Brady and Bledsoe came in, and it's like, hey, this is and I think Bledsoe had an expectation that I'm finally getting my job back.
Right.
And they stuck with Brady, and that it all happened so quickly. And it was kind of like it doesn't matter anyway because the Rams are so good.
Yeah, you're
so
right. That
it never
too.
was a big focal point.
Right.
So and then the next thing you know, they win the Super Bowl and the legend of Tom Brady is born. It's just amazing how quickly these seismic shifts can happen in the NFL. But that Tom Brady thing was really cemented. Now the win over the Raiders was something that got people to lean forward, but it wasn't until they won the Super Bowl that this Brady thing kind of pops up.
Right.
And before that, it was, are they going back to Drew Bledsoe? And a lot of people were probably upset that they didn't.
So, I mean, you're right. You're right. It was, it's fascinating. It really is, a little taking advantage of opportunity, a little luck, all of that. And, he continued to work and get better to where, a few years from that, from after that, he was, we were talking about him being the best quarterback in football with Peyton Manning. So it's an unbelievable story.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.